Bill Loiacono, School Board Chair representing the town of Whitefield. Before we move on to board introductions, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts of the Finance Department, in particular our District Finance Director Sheila, but also Superintendent Anastasia, all the administration across the district, not only in central office, but in all the buildings, for completing this process and getting the board to this presentation. The process is not an easy one, and the time, energy, and expertise across all departments, and I believe I speak for the rest of the board, it is truly appreciated, and we're very fortunate to have all of you, so thank you. As for the slide projected, you will see there are 4 seats on the board coming to expiration. Due to the resignation of both Mr. George Broda Sr. and Mr. Randy Bogus this past spring, we have filled those vacancies by appointment and not by election. The Carroll seat and one of the Lancaster seats will be for a 1-year term only, fulfilling those seats' original 3-year term, which would have expired in 2020. For those interested in filing for any seat and to become on the ballot, they can get a filing form from the district office with Roxanne Ball. And the filing start date is January 23rd, and the last date to file to appear on the ballot in March is on February 1st by 5:00 p.m. The board will reconvene in the media center after this presentation to finish board business and then finally adjourn the meeting. So without further ado, I'd like to go down the line and have my co-members introduce themselves.
So, good evening.
Or if you want to start, Jim.
Oh, sorry, okay.
We're going to go by
Jim
order
Murphy,
of the...
Town of Carroll.
Scott Kleinschrodt, Town of Dalton.
Jim Brady, Jefferson.
Herb Randall, Lancaster.
Chris Van Bergen, Lancaster.
Dave Hollander from Whitefield.
And with that, we'll move on to slide 3.
So, a couple of years ago, we, as a district, put together a strategic plan, and part of those efforts go towards reducing spending while maintaining a high-quality educational experience and opportunity for all our students. So, the strategic plan objectives, they drive the priorities of the budget, and in fact, they drive the priorities right across all our board meetings. Every board meeting, we have a report from the superintendent. Everything is key towards that. So it's really encouraging to see that plan is really driving a lot of what happens. So there's 5 key pegs to that: the structure and finance. So being sure that we are efficiently using our resources now and in the future. Culture, trying to promote engagement, inclusion, safety, and success for all of our students across all of our schools. Communication is another key part of our plan. We are intending to provide clear, more consistent communication. Educational. We are working on curriculum that is consistent across the board, across all our schools, promoting a culture of learning and preparing our students for whatever may come in the future. And finally, leadership strategies all across our administration, our staff on the board. So all of these things are what we come back to as we put the budget together.
Okay. For the timeline of this procedure, tonight is our opportunity for explanation and address feedback. And On February 4th, we'll have the deliberative session. This is when the voters can discuss with us amendments to the budget and warrant articles. And lastly, voting on March 12th at their respective towns. They will vote on the budget.
All right, the next slide is the budget, and it's the multi-year one starting in year 2016-17. You see the district is first on the line, and that is, it goes across from 2016, and the proposed budget for this year, for next year is $5,130,700, which the change is minus $221,987. Next would be the Jefferson School, and you can see that line is zeroed out because the school no longer exists. So there's a minus of $8,000 that we had in the budget last year to maintain the school. Lancaster is next, and Lancaster, you can see from the proposed budget that they have an increase of $120,774. And then we have the White Mountains Regional High School, and they have an increase of $131,871. And then the Whitefield School has a decrease in the budget for next year of $71,189. Then we have the total. So the proposed budget for next year would be $20,928,183 for a minus difference of $48,881. And then the next line is the food service, the wash. The money that comes in is from the government and we spend it. Okay, and then we have the minuses, surplus trust funds. And of course, that's for next year would be in the budget of $391,409. Okay, so the last line is the total of those columns, and under the proposed budget, it's $19,483. I'm sorry, 194,000.
Nope.
No, 19 million.
There you go.
Sorry. It's just back in my day, it was 19,000. It was a long time ago. All right, 19,483,183. Okay, any questions about this? Yes, Peter.
Can they do it from here?
I'm sorry.
So you need to take the mic.
You could stand up.
Yeah. Is food service really a wash? We've been subsidizing that a number of years. Is that a wash?
We do subsidize it. I'm not sure just how much this year, but basically what we subsidize, it's unpaid lunches, not to refuse our student a lunch. And if it doesn't get paid, if I remember correctly, that's what the board has been subsidizing. That if that money doesn't come in from the parents, and I think we've been putting it into the budget.
And another question, no contingencies for right sizing in the district. Is that work that wouldn't fall under this budget? Changes that would be next year's budget? If there were changes?
I believe, maybe you can explain it better, but I know the committee is being formed to look into this. So I would imagine that any amount that would affect the budget would be after next year.
Right.
So Peter, we have a grant fund for this year for our consultant to do the study.
Yeah.
And then by June or July, we're going to bring a recommendation to the board. And then we don't anticipate any expenditures next year. It will probably be.
Any other questions? Okay, next slide. Okay, the next slide is the warrant articles. And of course, the first one is the budget. That's raised by taxes. And then we have the default budget. If the proposed budget is defeated and the taxpayers vote in the default budget, that would be $20,808,377. The teacher's contract, there has been an agreement with the board, and that will be a warrant article that comes to a total for next year of $269,855. And then we have the building and grounds fund from surplus. That would be $300,000. That if it's left in the surplus, it would be put into the building and grounds. Then if there's money left, that would go to the out of district placement surplus, which we would put in $50,000 if there's money when it comes to that one. Then the district-wide road maintenance and paving from surplus would be $75,000. The life safety code deficiencies would be $50,000. And then the truck fund would be $10,000. And the athletic fields would be $25,000. So if all this is done, the budget for next year, the proposed budget would be $21,708,038. And then the revenues, we get the capital reserve fund from the Paradise Career and Technical Education tuition surcharge of $25,000. And the forestry timber revenue of $25,000 for a total of $50,000. And then there's a petition warrant article on the ballot this year for $30,000, I believe, for a field to, that would be to grass over that area that was cleared. But they'll speak about that later on. Any questions on this? So the difference between the proposed budget and the default budget would be $119,806. And if you wanted to look at the warrants, they're on page 21 to 23. Any questions?
We do go through the separate warrants later in the budget, or is there no time to ask about warrants?
I don't believe we were gonna be going through warrant articles one by one this evening. Before I answer that, Peter, I just wanted to add that in our meeting previously, the board did meet on the petition warrant article that was sent in, and the board does recommend that article, so that will be put on and added to the recommendations. As you see on that last slide that Jim just went through, it's a zero, that would be a $30,000 amount that will go to vote. And as far as now's the time, I guess that now would be a good time if you want specific, have specific warrant articles.
Question, it relates to the building maintenance expendable trust. I understand there's $350,000 been requested from the trustees to do upgrades to this room. Not to exceed $350,000. I understand some of it is to replace all these beautiful 1970s vintage shade lounges.
Orange is it?
Probably in a different color, I guess, would be a guess. And I read some of the argument that many are assay, can't be repaired, can't be recovered, and so on. I've sat in a lot of these, and haven't been in any of the broken ones. I guess I've tried them out just to see how bad they were. Seems like an awful lot of money to spend at one time to replace what are perfectly acceptable chairs. I mean, if we were in Uganda, we wouldn't be replacing these because we don't like the color, or because 3% of them are busted, or, unrepairable. I'd much prefer, in my years on the, buildings and facilities committee, we really were trying to build up the reserve because we've got some really expensive maintenance items coming, roofs in Lancaster, Whitefield, here, multi-million dollar expenses. I'm not sure why we don't do this piecemeal and do it 15% a year instead of all one fell swoop. And then we're prepared with a surplus fund to answer any emergency questions, big ticket items that may come up. It almost seems like we're trading the old car because the tires are old, when the car's perfectly fine. I guess I'd like to see a lean down a year this way, that way, half of these, a third of these, whatever. I just think that's a more prudent way to expend the funds. I don't have any issue about the lighting and the ballast and all those other maintenance issues that are safety issues, but people come out of the Christmas concert and they're not bitching about these chairs. Most of them didn't sit in the back one, I'm guessing, but there are a lot of people here, and this isn't a complaint. This isn't a cheap complaint. Again, it's not our college student, I get that, but we've got $723,000 in the surplus, maintenance reserve surplus. We're going to use pretty much half of it on this room alone. Is this really the biggest need the district has? To spend capital reserve money from the building maintenance expendable trust? I don't think so.
The board hasn't taken action on that yet. We're not bringing it to the board till on the end.
Well, that's why I'm raising the issue, because I'm not
Okay, so
committing money in.
So, yeah.
So that's
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Any other questions or comments? Dave's next.
So, summary of changes, basically, there's a few things that need, I'll just move through the first few rather quickly. I think they're a little bit, obvious, but, the health insurance, retirement, staff support, which includes the salaries and benefits, fuel, electricity, transportation, and other unanticipated student service costs, in the audiovisual. This budget also includes, for the addition now of the SRO offices at the elementary schools in Lancaster and Whitefield. We also have 5 planned retirements. And the reason I wanted to mention that is because there's also a reduction of 3 teachers with this new budget. And I think it's important just to realize that we're not losing any teachers, through the RIF. But I think that takes into account some of the things that have been going on in the district. So that was kind of a important thing that we've not had to reduce any of the teaching staff involuntarily. I think the rest of it's pretty straightforward, but are there any questions?
Thank you, David.
Slide 8 is the amendments to the definition of the default budget. So last legislative session, they changed some of the definition of how the default budget is created. And this was a House bill that passed. And so what they have is they've listed the 6 main changes. But I'm gonna kind of jump down to number 6, because that's the one that really affects us the most. And not that I'm an expert on this, I was kind of given the definition and some examples, so I want to share those with you so that you'll understand kind of how we changed, how we create the default budget. So for an example, if we have a transportation contract that's maybe for 5 years, and maybe we're in year 3, in the past, we would have to budget in the default budget for year 4, whatever that contract was, whatever it stated we were going to pay. Now we cannot do that. We have to go back to what we paid this year. That's all we can put in the default budget. And somewhere down the road, we have to pick up that extra amount to pay off year 4 of transportation. So just to put some numbers into this, let's say this year's transportation budget was $450,000. It's not, but let's just make pretend it is. Let's say next year's transportation budget is $475,000. It's up $25,000. In years past, the default budget would have that $475,000 budget figure. Because of the change in the House bill, we cannot do that. We can only budget what we paid this year, $450,000. However, we still owe the transportation company $475,000. And so we have to come up with that $25,000 some other way. And so it's changing how we prepare the default budget. Teacher salaries and support staff salaries, they're voted in. So when we vote in a 3-year contract or a 2-year contract, those numbers won't change. Those will increase if it's the first year going to a second year. Administrators' contracts is a different issue. It's the same thing as kind of like the busing contract. An administrator contract might be for 3 years. So if we're in year 1, we pay, and again, just use a simple number, around $100,000 for a principal. Year 2, the contract states the contract will go up to $105,000. We cannot budget $105,000 in the default budget. We can only budget $100,000. That extra 5, we have to come up with, because the administrator signed that contract for year 2, getting paid $105,000. And so that will change how we create this default budget. It sounds confusing. I was confused a little bit, but this is what the new House bill brought to us. That was accepted last year, 2018. So. Does anybody have any questions on that? Peter?
So it covers collective bargaining contracts, but no other contract?
Correct.
Yes. Sheila, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Because of the Sanbornization of those contracts, Peter. When the voters, they're Sanbornized. Because all of the years in that con. All of the years are listed in the warrant article, and when the voters approve that warrant article, they're in essence approving each year in the whole package.
any other questions on how we created or how we're dealing with this amendment to the default budget? Because this is a change this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Slide 9, distribution of proposed 1920 budget by program. I'm going to start to the right and go clockwise and just give you some examples of what these groups are and programs. So regular programs is at 33%, which is an equivalent of $6,797,614. And that's all your regular programming, elementary and secondary school. Special programs, as it sounds, it's special education programs, including things like speech impaired, bilingual, gifted and talented as well. That is 14%. which is a dollar amount of $2,965,563. CTE programs, your Career and Tech Ed Center vocational programs is 2%, which is an equivalent dollar amount of $487,280. Other instructional programs going around is at 3%. These are school-sponsored activities, co-curricular athletics, and the Futures program, for examples. That's a total of 3%, or dollar equivalent, $548,174. Student support services is at 8%, which is a dollar amount of $1,580,288, including social work services, guidance, health services like nurses, medical, psychological, and speech pathology services, to name a few. Instructional staff services includes professional development, instruction and curriculum development, staff training, media services, etc. That's at 2% for a dollar amount of $470,610. School board supervisions, the Board of Education, the school board clerk, treasurer services, election, tax assessment, collection, staff relations and negotiations, and that's at 1% of the budget by program, and a dollar amount of $141,674. Other administrative services is at 5%. This is the Office of the Superintendent, Community Relations, State and Federal Relations, and Executive Administrative Services, and that's a dollar amount of $1,125,039. School Administrative Services is at 7%. That's a dollar amount of $1,393,570. This includes all building office principals and other building administrative services. Business is at 1%, which is a dollar amount of $259,285. This includes financial and fiscal services, supervision of fiscal services like budgeting, financial accounting, payables, receivables, payroll, purchasing, internal auditing, property accounting, and so on. Operations and maintenance of plant, this is at 11%, which is a dollar equivalent of $2,394,959. This is building grounds and equipment operation, care and upkeep, district vehicles other than student transportation vehicles, operation and maintenance and security services. Student transportation, what it sounds like. And that's at 5%, a dollar amount of $1,150,418. And then finally, transfers at 7%. This includes charters, food service, grants, well, the charter schools, sorry about that. At total 7%. Hold on, I guess I lost that a little bit on my own notes. Does that include, does this amount include?
Yeah.
Okay, so that 7% total dollar amount is $1,542,817. Any questions on programs and programming? Peter, is that up?
Yeah, just a suggestion.
Yeah.
There's 13 programs there. If you put a box on each side and include the dollar amount and what it's covered, I don't know whether we're gonna see this as a deliberative session, but it would, I mean, I think anybody that wants to kick, co-curricular and athletics around as a football
Right.
analogy, and realizing it was only 2%, whatever the number is, and it represents.
See the actual dollar
You
amount.
know, $300,000, they might like to come,
Right.
having seen this information in front of them. You clearly have it.
Yep.
You don't, it would be really helpful. Again, if we're gonna see this this form at the deliberative session, it would be great to have that information.
So we'll include the dollar amounts with the percentage. Not necessarily the breakdown that I gave you, but that will be more.
A brief description.
So you want that breakdown too, basically everything that is in the pie, but we could put it below under, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Slide 10, distribution of proposed 2018-19 budget by type expense. I have, my notes are a little bit off, so we're going back to that 2019-2020 budget by type expense. So we're gonna start with salaries and benefits is obviously the biggest portion, and that's at 71%, which is a total dollar amount of $14,806,287. Professional services at 1% is $283,371. Repairs and maintenance at 2% is the equivalent of $424,529. Lease and rentals is 2% and a dollar amount equivalent of $369,217. Student transportation, 5% for a total of $1,087,768. Tuition, 3%, $731,965. Travel and staff development, 1% is $107,028. Supplies at 4%, dollar amount is $837,967. Equipment, 2%, $321,071. Fund transfers, 7%, $1,500,852. Miscellaneous, 2%, $458,119. Any questions?
Slide 11 is the budget history from 2005 to 2020. And as you can see, the red is the trend. The next one below with the square is the actual budget and how it's gone up and down over the last 20 years. And then the very bottom, the blue, kind of with a diamond in the middle, that's showing the adequacy aid. And as you can see, and as you've heard, adequacy aid is going down, and it has been going down. It was kind of level there for some time, but in 2016, you can start to see that it's going down. And we know that the stabilization funding is being reduced by 4% every year. Every single year until there's nothing left. And that will be a while before that happens, but it's still a loss for us. And this year we're losing $134,821 in our stabilization funding. Some extra kind of numbers just to show you kind of where we're at with our stabilization funding, state adequacy aid. Between 2018 and 2019, we lost $313,683. Between 2019 and 2020, we are going to be losing $45,684. So if you look at the current budget we're in this year, we lost $313,683 in state adequacy aid. Much of that was because we lost 40 students. This year, we're only predicted to lose 5 from this year to next year. And so we're not going to lose as much in that 313,000 that we lost last year. This year, the number we're looking at is 45,684. And when I asked Sheila this, because Sheila really is the brains behind all this, we get extra money if students are on IEPs, if they're on 504s, if they get free and reduced lunch. We receive extra money from the state back when we have students who are identified like that. And so this year we are receiving extra money back, and so our loss of 45,000 is not nearly as great as it was last year when we lost 313,000. So that's the good news. The bad news is we're still going to lose 4% every single year unless the legislature stops that. And I know there are bills, and Marion, you know more about that than I do, but there are bills that are trying to address that issue. Any questions on budget history? Peter?
Just clarification, the red in 2005 is where Brian Fogg and Associated School Board members decided we simply couldn't continue the sort of increases. I think the budget was going to double every 10 years if we hadn't put the brakes on. It was kind of a come to Jesus moment with the union. They recognizing that they have a role in this as well. And then so the brakes were applied. So if you look at the number in 05 and the number now, roughly $5 million over 15 years. What's that in there, $300,000 a year increase? That's pretty amazing for the quality of education, the peace in the district that we had, and everything that we've accomplished on 300,000. You're now faced with losing adequacy aid as well. Hats off to all of you, because that's, I don't know how many other districts can put that feather in their cap. It's really quite amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, slide 12. So this is a chart that shows us what the trend line is beginning in 2004 up through the current enrollment. And we're not immune to what's going on in the rest of the state, except for a few counties in the south, where we're losing. We continue to lose school age population. I think the good news is that in the last few years, or the last 2 years, we've seen that slow a little bit. I think as Scott has already mentioned, we saw a reduction of 5 student enrollments. And I think where it gets a little bit confusing is that the trend line that we have from several studies was what the projections were that we've had for several years, and it continues to go down. Some people may suggest that, well, there seems to be some growth, and that's true. There does seem to be some population growth, but it's among an older demographic that seems to be moving into the year. We still continue to see young families, or particularly our graduates, go off to college, and many of them don't come back. I think as we look forward, we're going to continue to see somewhat. I think that the good news that we can see is that it may be slowing a little bit, so it may not be as acute in the years ahead. Anybody have any questions on that? Thank you.
Thank you. For slide 13, here we have classroom sizes. On the slide, section from Whitefield Elementary School, Lancaster Elementary School, and then the section to the right for White Mountain Regional High School. I'm not going to go down and kind of read what those ratios with teachers, parent, students are. I do want to make a couple of notes that this does not include unified arts, teachers, counselors, nurses, Special ed, Title I, for example, these are your core classes, classrooms. One other note, under Whitefield Elementary School, you'll see a larger block there for 4th and 5th grade. There are 3 teachers, both those grades. The students are 18, 18, and 19. It just hasn't been determined yet as to, there may be some overlapping in those students in 4th and 5th grade, if that's fair enough to say. It hasn't been.
We'll be examining the most appropriate configuration within that cohort. And
There
that'll be
are
occurring
3 teachers in total for those.
That is correct.
Any questions? Questions, guys? Good, thank you.
All right. So this slide talks about the sources of revenue that we have in the district. And if you look on the left, this is our proposed budget for 2019-2020. And for reference, to the right, going back to the 2014 to 2015. This is really related to Scott's last slide with budget history. If you look in our proposed budget, the local sources of revenue make up 54% of what we're anticipating. That's $11,337,233. This comes from the local assessments, earnings on our investments, food service sales, other miscellaneous local tuition from sending districts. The state revenue that we're receiving from them is 40%, and that equals $8,309,100. This is the adequacy aid, SWEPT, CT tuition, transportation aid, food service, kindergarten aid. And then the last remaining portion of the pie there is federal grants, and that comes to $1,281,850. The main point, really looking back historically, it's just that as we said before, the percentage of our local contribution is what is going up as the state aid is decreasing. Any questions on that?
So for our next slide 15, we have professional bargaining unit salary and benefits for fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21. We, several months ago, started in negotiations with the board's personnel committee, which included myself, Jim, and Kristen, as well as Superintendent Anastasia and Sheila, and negotiating with the teachers union. And I just want to make a note that there are many hours and meetings that go into negotiations, and it was relatively painless this year. I would like to say, I think everybody on both sides did an excellent job, and I would probably be remiss not to say that the board as a whole, in ratifying the negotiated contract, very much values our teaching staff, and we feel that these contracts coming forward to vote are reasonable and fair, and also competitive, and we hope you vote for it. Yes? Any questions on the salary package? It is a 2-year contract that we're looking at. The salaries totals for the first year of the contract is $269,855. For fiscal year 21 is $261,271. The warrant article will be that complete package for those 2 years. So we talked a little bit about that earlier because it's the bargaining unit. Even if the default budget is kind of passed, then these cost items would still be included in the following, things like Karen funded. Any questions?
So the next slide really addresses the district assessment for the taxation for the voters. Under our proposed budget, you'll see between current FY19 and the proposed budget for FY20, we're talking about a negative difference of 48,000. So the current proposed budget comes in a little bit under the budget that we're in right now. Our estimated revenues, however, are also anticipated to be less next year by about $407,000. So the direct district assessment, when we remove those revenues from the proposed budget, is an increase of $358,000 across the district. If we add in all of the warrant articles, we'll see that there's actually an increase of 3.72% on the proposed budget. That's primarily a change that can be attributed to the new teachers' contracts just spoken about. Additional supports, the support staff for year 2, their contract is approved in a prior year, and so that comes into play for the fiscal year 20 budget, and a significant increase in expenses for special education, tuition, and supplies for that particular program. Excuse me. With our estimated revenues, including surplus, then you'll see the total proposed district assessment, including all our warrant articles and the proposed budget, is a total of $12,588,653 to be shared across the 5 towns in our district. And that represents an increase of 5.26%. Any questions there? Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide to show you how that breaks out by town. Our estimated annual tax impact per $100,000 of assessed home value. And this particular slide incorporates all of the warrant articles that are currently proposed. It would represent a rate change of 9 cents per $1,000 in the town of Carroll. So an average property at $100,000 would see an increase to their tax bill of $9. In Dalton, that would be a $1.09 increase per 1,000. So a total of $109 impact per $100,000 property. And then moving our way across, Jefferson would see $138 increase on a $100,000 property, Lancaster at $27, and finally Whitefield at $119 per $100,000 of valued property. And so you'll see there that's kind of how that shapes by town, again representing an increase of 5.26% if the proposed budget plus all warrant articles pass. Questions?
I just wanted to interrupt real quick, going back to the teachers' contracts. There is a salary schedule at the end of your packet. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
And if you have any questions at all about the town summary, the tax impact, there's also a town summary for you as well.
Okay, this slide is a list of the reserve and expendable trust fund balances. And you can look down through them. And the total of all of those taken together is $892,800.
You want to interrupt you, Jim?
It's just the building.
We don't have the total, but if
Oh,
somebody
all right.
wants one.
Sorry about that.
That's
That's it.
Any questions on the capital reserve balances?
The next slide is the surplus history. And you can, use this one. It's not only the numbers I make a mistake, it's getting harder to see the numbers.
They're really small.
And Peter, I remember when I was in high school, the tuition from Jefferson to Berlin was $50 a year. It's changed drastically. Okay, we have the history of our surplus money. You can see for the last 3 years that none of it has been expended at the end of the year. Before that, we did. One year, in 2013, we expended $682,899. And in 2014 and 15, we expended $681,098 out of the surplus. The surpluses at the end of the year have been less since then, and they've been mostly put into the capital reserve funds. The projection next year is the capital reserve funds would be 341,000. I'm sorry, that's returned to the, yeah, that's capital reserve fund, okay?
This year.
So are there any questions about this? Okay, next slide. In conclusion, it's a complex, many multifaceted process, budgeting. We have to continue the need to be creative and seek funding sources. And it's thoughtful, strategic planning. Okay, and everything is based on evidence and research-based decision-making strategies.
This budget presentation also maximizes the efficiency of every dollar. I really do want to thank everyone for all their efforts, the finance department, district office, all the building administrators working together, many, many man hours that go into building this budget and this presentation. Co-board members as well. The collaboration and bringing this forward really, every year amazes me. Such a great job. So if none of my other co-members or anyone in the audience has any other remarks they'd like to make, we are going to reconvene in the media center to vote to pass the final budget and then adjourn that meeting. So I want to thank everybody for coming.
Arlene, do you have something?
Do you want an explanation of that position on? Just, I'll give it to you guys in the board meeting if you want.
Yeah, if you want to come in and, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess.
Not really.
Well, or what, yeah, do you want to?
You have to know the history of it. Fine. I'll do it. That's fine.
Back in the media center. Great. Thank you, everybody. Back in the media center, Zane, can you help